Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Sunday. So this first part here, we're going to say a different prayer. Instructions for this prayer are simple. Get relaxed, enter meditation if you can, but just allow your attention to rest on the prayer that's being said. Just make sure you're nice and relaxed, comfortable. Put down distractions for this part. We'll start in about 2 minutes. I'll talk about the prayer and then we can get into it. For those who just came in, please get comfortable. We're going to start in about 2 minutes. Okay. The prayer we're going to be starting today is called the Powerful Prayer of Aspiration. It's from one second, give the full title of it. I'll be reading the, thanks. I'll be reading the powerful prayer of aspiration from the Tantra of the Great Perfection that reveals the all-penetrating wisdom mind of Samantabhadra. That's where the prayer is from. It's called the Kuntu Zangpo prayer. Kuntu Zangpo, it's symbolic being, representing the utter purity, primordial purity that is your mind, the essence nature of your mind. We call it Kuntu Zangpo, I believe translates something like the all good. See, the very nature of your mind, the primordially pure, unstained, untouched nature that is your mind as it is before the clouds of obscurations arose in it. Before any of that, its bare nature, its basic nature, its essential nature is all good, is Kuntu Zangpo, is the primordial Buddha, we say. This primordial Buddha, non-different than your very mind. And so this prayer arises from that place. It is as if it's speaking to itself, describing its own processes and its own ways in which it expresses itself. Okay. All that appears and exists, samsara and nirvana, has one ground, two paths, and two forms of fruition. The magical displays of awareness and unawareness. Through this, Samantabhadra's prayer of aspiration, may all attain complete and perfect awakening within the palace of Dharmatu, the absolute sphere. The basic nature of everything is uncompounded, a self-originating expanse, vast and inexpressible. Beyond the names samsara and nirvana, this itself, when seen, is awakening. But in their ignorance, beings wander in samsara. May all sentient beings throughout the three realms realize the meaning of the ineffable ground. I, Samantabhadra, know the ground's reality, which is without cause or condition. It originates by itself within this very ground, is unspoilt by perspective, superstition, or denial, and unobscured by the darkness of unmindful delusion. That which is self-manifest is thus without fault. When abiding in genuine intrinsic awareness, there is no fear, even at the triple world's demise, nor is there attachment to the five sensory delights. In self-originating awareness, free of concepts, there is neither solid form nor the five poisons. The unobstructed clarity of awareness is one in essence and fivefold in wisdom. Through the ripening of the five wisdoms, the five original Buddha families arise. And through the wisdom's further expansion, the 42 peaceful Buddhas emerge. With the upsurge of the fivefold wisdom powers, the 60 blood-drinking Harukas appear. Thus, ground awareness has never known delusion. I am the primordial Buddha, and therefore, through this, my prayer of aspiration, may beings of samsara's three realms recognize self-originating awareness, so that vast wisdom may be perfected. Continuously, my emanations will appear in their billions, beyond imagining, manifest in varied ways according to need. Through this, my compassionate aspiration, may all beings of samsara's three realms escape their plight among the six classes. From the very first, since awareness does not dawn for deluded beings within the ground, they are entirely mindless and confused. This itself is unawareness, delusion's cause. And then, as if out of a sudden daze, there's anxiety and mental disquiet, from which notions of self and other and enmity appear, as this habitual tendency is then reinforced. Samsara unfolds in its regular progression. Thus, mind's afflictions, the five poisons, develop, and actions born of the five poisons never end. Therefore, since the basis of being's delusion is a lack of mindfulness, an absence of awareness, through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may all beings recognize their own awareness. The unawareness that is co-emergent is a state of mindlessness, distraction. The unawareness that designates is dualistic clinging to self and other. These two, co-emergent and designating awareness, provide the basis for the delusion of all beings. Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may the dark and murky gloom of unmindfulness among all sentient beings in samsara be dispelled. May their dualistic perceptions be purified, and may they recognize their own very awareness. A mind of dualistic clinging is one of doubt. From subtle attachment, once it has arisen, habitual tendencies gradually gain strength. Food, wealth, clothing, home, and companions, the pleasures of the five senses or dear relations, whatever is attractive brings the torment of desire. These are the delusions of the world. Actions based on dualistic clingings are unending. When the fruits of attachment come to ripen, they bring birth as a preta, tormented by desire. How wretched are the pains of hunger and thirst. Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may beings beset by craving and attachment neither cast aside the torment of desire, nor pursue the craving of attachment. Instead, allowing the mind to relax just as it is, may they capture the natural state of awareness and gain the wisdom of perfect discernment. Through the subtle stirrings of anxiety and fear towards the appearance of external objects, habitual tendencies of aversion are reinforced. opening the way to enmity, injury, and slaughter. When the fruits of aggression come to ripen, how harrowing will be the boilings and the burnings of hell. Now, through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may all sentient beings of the six realms, whenever they are beset by intense aggression, neither reject it nor indulge in it, but relax therein, capture the natural state of their own awareness, and gain the wisdom of lucid clarity. When the mind grows conceited, it brings thoughts of rivalry and disdain, and the arising of intense pride leads to the suffering of quarrels and disputes. When the fruits of such karma come to ripen, they bring birth as a deva subject to the passage and fall. Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may all sentient beings in whom conceit is born relax their minds there and then, capture the natural state of their own awareness, and realize the true meaning of equality. Habitual tendencies of intense dualistic clinging bring about the pain of self-flattery and contempt, and by inflaming conflict, dispute, and competition, lead to birth in the Asura realm of slaughter and mutilation, which in turn results in the descent to the domains of hell. Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may those in whom rivalry and antagonism take root, not regard them as enemies, but relax there and then, capture the natural state of their own awareness, and gain the wisdom as unimpeded activity. Mindlessness, indifference, distraction, dullness, drowsiness, oblivion, insensibility, laziness, and stupidity results in helpless animal wandering. Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may the light of clear cognizance arise in those plunged in stupidity's gloom, and may they gain wisdom free of thought. All sentient beings throughout the three realms are equal to me, the Buddha, in the ground of all. Yet for them, it is but a base of mindless delusion. And now they engage in meaningless pursuits with sixfold karma as if deceived by a dream. Yet I am the primordial Buddha, guide to the six classes through my emanations. Through this Samantabhadra's prayer of aspiration, may all sentient beings without exception awaken within the Dharma to the absolute sphere. Okay. Hello, I'm back. We're back. So today we are going to keep going through the text that we started, the meditation manual text, and then we'll begin meditation at 8:30. But before I do that, I was wondering, does anyone have any thoughts about the meditation that they would like to sort of clarify if you are practicing it, but you don't have to, but this specific one that I'm sharing right now. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask now. If not, we'll continue. Okay. Let me pull it up. Share screen. Okay. All right. So if you've been practicing this, it takes some time. But as we said in the first part, essentially for meditation, you cannot beat your mind into submission. There's this ongoing idea that I see in a lot of my friends I talk to, that to quiet the mind, you must sort of forcefully shut down your thoughts. This, this idea won't get you too far in meditation, because as you'll see very quickly, the more you try to shut down your thoughts, the more you try to actively repress them, you're just pushing down like a really intense boiling like pot with a cover, right? It's gonna explode sometime or the other. You've probably seen this in thoughts you have repressed about people. You kind of like really push them down, and it sort of like boils to the top and like explodes one day, because you have the thought, you believe it, but the way in which you relate to it after you believe it is what really sets the stage here. But anyway, this meditation, I saw someone asking in the Discord today, aids to calmness. How do you get calm? This meditation teaches you just that. How to enter into a relaxation, a tranquility, a calmness, a stillness in a way that is sustainable, in a way that you can actively participate in, that will have lasting effects. Whereas if normally in the things in which you put your attention in to bring you that relaxation, those things have been causing temporary relaxation. Otherwise, why would you look for something else? See, if the object in which you look for calmness and relaxation has been always permanently giving you that satisfaction of relaxation, why is it then that you keep searching for alternatives? And just so, what we've come up with here is a sustainable way for you to keep consistent with that sort of ground of calmness, that stillness. Because what we're saying is that your mind needn't be made calm. That's not really attitude. Don't try to make your mind calm. It is already calm. Your mind, its inherent state, when the thoughts and obscurations and negative emotions are allowed to subside. See, in the prayer, it says anger, pride, jealousy, all these things, when they arise, when hate arises, neither push them away, nor should you pursue them, but capture natural awareness and relax therein. See, first we need to know truly stillness. What is it that you're relaxing into? What does that even feel like? What is the stillness beyond the movement of your mind? What we're saying is you need not try to shove things down or push them away as if you're trying to achieve a stillness that isn't there. Instead, what we're saying is naturally, as it is, if it is allowed to calm, it will settle itself. It will naturally settle itself. The issue is that we have the habit of creating more and more. We have the habit of when a thought, an idea comes up, we link it to other thoughts and ideas, and we create this chain of linkage that continues. Everything feels, when the linking occurs, it feels natural, it feels right to do the linking. That is the habit energy. That is simply the habit energy that persists in every, thought pattern you have going on in the background and the forefront. So what we have now is a way for you to put that down, because it seems like all the ideas in which that thought patterning and narrative can come up with to bring you calm and relief, it seems that it always comes at a side effect, right? It always comes at well, if I take this drug, I'll have this side effect. If I eat this food to calm down, this comfort food, I'll get fat. Or if I, do this exercise, maybe I'll come up with body dysmorphia or something. I don't know. But there are all these ways in which it backfires to the extreme. And what we're saying we're offering here is a method to rest mind as it is. We call it abiding, calm abiding. To know stillness apart from your ideas of what stillness is. Which you kind of think, well, maybe I'm still here, I'm calm here, but I'm not calm there. I'm relaxed here, but I'm not relaxed there. What we're trying to do is sort of show that if you can, by mindfully bringing your attention back, training in this, mindfully bringing attention, focused awareness, attention back to an object, you can indeed settle the mind like this. Because as you will see, once your attention itself shifts away from the very movement of your mind into the object becomes an anchor. And through that anchor, all thoughts subside, all movement subsides by itself. It subsides and becomes, like it says right here, leave the mind in that state, like a clear lake. On this motionless surface, a change then appears, like a soft breeze rippling the surface of the water. This is called movement. And if we allow ourselves to be carried away by it, we shall go astray as previously explained. It's very simple. Don't need to complicate it. We speak in two terms here: stillness, movement. This is the two terms we'll be speaking of a lot here: stillness and movement. But the first step what we do in this system here is we're going to separate the movement from the stillness, just to show you that show you true stillness, the stillness that is there even when the movement occurs. But first you must know the stillness. Get very familiar. What is it? Stillness, not a perception of stillness. Sort of the stillness that doesn't move. Think of it that way. Think of a stillness in which no thought, no perception, no emotion can shake it. That kind of stillness. The stillness in which it depends not on an external satisfaction or input for sustained stillness. That kind of stillness we're talking about here. Not just momentary calm relief. No, we're not satisfied with just that here. We want release from suffering. Suffering is occurring. We want some remedy to take us further. This is a step, a first step. We go further than this, but this is the first step. And so first, as we say, we will separate that stillness, because like it says right here too, is right below here, if you do not recognize stillness, it will be impossible for us to recognize movement. I'll stop right there. What this is essentially saying is that if we don't truly understand and know what is the stillness beyond your thoughts, beyond emotion, beyond perception, if we don't truly know that stillness naked as it is, you will get carried away by movements of it. And now all this is tied into this very simple concept we come to here. Suffering is occurring. Suffering is occurring in life in many varied ways. In you and other people, suffering is occurring. We want refuge from that suffering. Naturally, as human beings, we seek refuge in things. Meaning, refuge, just word refuge, right? Feel it. Feel the word refuge. You are taking a stance in something that you hope will relieve some suffering, some uncomfortability in your life. You're taking refuge from a situation, a feeling, something. And so we say, though, we use a little bit of logic here. We say, okay, your whole life, it seems as though everything you put your refuge in has been a sinking ship. Meaning it has passed, it has died, it has somehow gone away from you. Breakup, if you want to call it a breakup, a loved one passed, an idea slipped away from your mind, a philosophy was destroyed by some idea. All these things in which you seek your refuge of comfort, of relaxation in, eventually will come to an end, by you or by force or by death. Yes? Agreeable? Okay. So we say, let's stop doing that. Let's try something different. Let's try a method to have your refuge being something solid, being something permanent, or somewhat, reliable that you can. And for this, we have path. We have your practice, your goal, your big, the big goal, but you have the goal, enlightenment, something that will permanently have that given to you. And so don't see meditation or simple meditation as just, it's a simple meditation, it's going to take me far. No. Any practice you engage in, if it is a traditional, lineage-based, fully verified practice, like Shine here, know that this essential practice can take you very, very far. And if you're taking the Tantra Thursday class, knows the importance of one very, very small practice, how powerful a singular small practice is enough to take you straight to the end. And so wholeheartedly put yourself into practices when you do them, or else you won't get much fruition and you're just going to jump around a lot. Okay. That being said, let's see what we have here. In the depths of the mind, something exists which is able to recognize stillness and movement at the same time. Now, that is called rikpa, or awareness. Okay. Stillness now. When you come to know this stillness that is beyond the thought, beyond the movement, we have essentially separated this thing called movement and this thing called stillness. We've kind of put them apart like that. Now, experientially, what we're saying is that perfect stillness that you will come to know directly for yourself, by yourself, because you can't actually know without doing the practice. You can't actually know this stillness we're talking about unless you sit there and do it. Otherwise, you'll have some kind of remembrance of something called stillness. You'll have your own ideas thrown into it about stillness. None of that. Can't have none of that. No pre-assumption of what we mean here. Have to practice. After we've separated these two now, there's something that recognizes the stillness and the movement at the same time. Awareness, your awareness that it is that awareness. During meditation, we must neither reject nor follow movement. Having recognized stillness, we can let the mind return there each time. By remaining at ease whenever the change takes place, the movement dissolves by itself. Like the wave which forms on the surface of the ocean and which subsides into it again. There's a lot packed in there. But essentially it's this. You return again and again to the stillness that you will find through meditation. Because you will see now that every time you return to this stillness, it doesn't really move. It doesn't budge. Like we said, it's not a compounded stillness. It's not a stillness that does anything. And so this is why the rock is very important, the pebble that we use. Because the pebble doesn't do anything. The pebble will not do anything. Just so, you as a practitioner will come to see that very reflection of stillness that is seen in that pebble. You'll see it with mind. You'll recognize it with awareness. You'll recognize the stillness. Having recognized the stillness, you come back to it again and again. When you come back to it again and again, through the movement, the thoughts, the perceptions, the feelings, the sensations that occur within us. When those happen, we no longer take refuge in ideas about what to do now when you have the stress. Instead, you return to the stillness. Just for now, just the beginning here, just for the beginning. You return to the stillness. You return to the stillness. And then the thoughts themselves, whatever arises within that stillness, subsides by itself without you needing to do anything. So if you have an anxious thought, a fearful thought, an unworthy thought, say it comes up, say anger comes up. Instead of being caught in the anger like you habitually know how to do right now, instead, if you start doing the practice and really stick to it, instead you will find yourself, once knowing what stillness really is, you will find yourself returning to that stillness. And in returning to that stillness, you'll find true refuge. Because when your anger comes up and all these afflictive emotions come up inside us, and we want to get out of them, we want to express them. We want release from unworthiness, release from anger, release from sadness. Good, you want that, you want release. What we're saying is that there's no need to batter it into the ground. There's no need to force the external world to shift here, there, and everywhere to subside these feelings we're feeling. What we're saying is that you have inherent there a stillness in mind that cannot be destroyed. A true refuge that cannot be destroyed. You just need to find it. You need to see it for yourself. You as awareness need to recognize that very stillness. And it's not a thing. The stillness is not a thing. And because it's not a thing, as we say, you all know this argument. If something is born, it dies. It has to die. That's how it goes. If it arises, it ceases. What we're looking at here is a stillness that doesn't cease. But we just don't recognize it. We don't recognize it. And at first it will cease. At first you will notice the stillness, but then you'll go about life and it'll go away. It'll just kind of vanish because your attention gets caught up again in all the movement, the stuff that occur. Instead, the practice is this. Find the stillness, know the stillness, have confidence in the stillness, come back to the stillness every time. And in this process, you'll find something. you'll find that you have to let go of attachments. That's the beauty of it. You'll find that naturally, you'll find that this thing that you take refuge in, you'll recognize that which constantly takes you away from it. You'll find all the fancy narratives and things that take you away from the stillness, that distracts you from it. Remember, the purpose here is not the stillness is something for you to grab. Don't grab the stillness. Don't worry about that. We're just separating it here for now. But first, you need to know, really have confidence in that stillness when you notice it. Because the next step is when we bring in the movement. Meaning we allow the movement to be while resting in the stillness. And you will see for yourself that that indestructible stillness that you now know so clearly is not different from the movements that occur in your mind. You will come to see directly that at this point, little to anything that arises in your mind now catches you so tightly, because you can relax into the stillness when it arises. So no more, the habit of rumination falls away here. The habit of constantly creating narratives falls away here. This is what this means. This means that the emotions that arise, they will arise. Your thoughts will arise. Your emotions will arise. Your habitual karma will be there. That's fine. But the way in which you relate to them has ceased, thereby creating more and more opportunity for you in your own true motivation. Like we said in the beginning of everything, your motivation matters. Now you can fulfill that true motivation you have. If your motivation is to finish school, well, you'll be able to do that, because now you want to have all these thoughts and feelings bombarding you all the time. If your motivation is to go to the gym, you have that. You have that motivation that is straight through, that freedom that is there. But the ultimate, I have to say, as a biased person, the ultimate motivation to attain to perfect freedom for the benefit of all sentient beings. That is it. That is the motivation that will carry you throughout anything. All the other motivation, go to the gym, play the guitar, write this book, do that thing, eventually they will end. And like we said, eventually the being, it's not a forced thing, do it if you want. Eventually the being gets tired of that. Eventually you get tired of it. Eventually you say you want something that doesn't end. Eventually you'll do enough thinking around that you get tired of it, and you want the permanent. You want something that doesn't die, that doesn't seem to go away, that shifts or changes, something that is, well, in all sense and purposes. You want something unborn, undying, unceasing. You can give that thing many names if you want, but you will see that through what you learn from simple practice like this, you will see that you want that thing they call Buddha nature, God, I don't know, what do you want to call it? You'll see that you want that permanent. You'll want that thing that doesn't change. And is that not how it is described? The satisfaction, the moment that contains everything, in which you rest so peacefully, so tranquilly, in that nothing, absolutely anything that occurs is simply an appearance. That lasting thing that you crave for inside, that somehow eludes you in every activity you perform. That thing. And so, yeah, we start small, but you'll see that everything is contained so, in a speck. The whole, I forget which one, this brings someone up a lot. He says, in one corner of the room, their universe is there, right? In just one corner of the room, you have so many universes packed in. Just so, one pebble, one practice, one japa, one something, one prayer. Everything can be contained in it. In any moment, all of it. Totality, right? Kuntu Zangpo, primordial Buddha, it says in the prayer, arises in infinite ways for infinite beings. That's what it means. Infinity in the immanent, immanent in the infinity. And so we start small. We start with a pebble, but you have to try with the pebble. Have to put the effort with the pebble. Everything that we know, that we normally know, people who go to school and do things like that, you have to work hard, you have to complete many different tasks, you have to do all this, this, and that, and all that to get somewhere. Here we say, first of all, no one, I'm not here, I'm not teaching anything, I'm offering something here. I'm offering a practice you wish to practice. You do it as your own beingness, your own free willness, I guess. You do it at your own ability to say, I wish for something more, or I wish for permanence, I wish for that lasting thing. You as your own person need to decide that. No one can give that to you. No one can sort of shove meditation down your throat or Dharma practice, honestly. You need to have that full wholeness of devotion to say, I need to start. I need to do this often and then do it. In the beginning, it helps to have the motivation. And there are many ways we can give you that motivation. Many things we can do to give you that motivation. We will do it here in these sessions. We will do them. With the same way we did at the beginning we did last week, which is the 4 thoughts that turn to mind. 4 thoughts that basically turn the mind to Dharma, right? Yeah. And so we're going to keep going over those over and over, and you will begin to see them everywhere you look in your life. And slowly, as you see these in your life, you will naturally, by your acquired wisdom, turn your attention to Dharma, to the ability to say, wow, I want to get out of this constant shit that I'm going through over and over again. Not so like an escapism way, no, but to actually say, well, yes, I'm suffering and I want to do this in a very healthy way. I want to, go through it like that. It is a step, there's no need to end anything you're currently doing in your life. No tragic change is needed. As you can see, you're starting with a pebble. How hard can it be? So nothing too major, no one's asking you to change. It's about motivation. Because all this is, as everyone's been telling you since the beginning of everything, is it's all inside. It's all up to you, right? No one can give you it. It's all up to you. You may receive the blessings of grace as moments of bliss or mystical experiences. You can have those gifted to you through whatever reasons, good karma, whatever you want to call it. Those have been gifted to you. Those who've received initiation have felt what true grace feels like. And you know that there is something here that is undeniable, and so you keep coming back to it. Those who have really felt it know this. Have known that flowingness that is not opposed to life, that isn't opposed to being you, that you like to drink coffee and you like to go on runs, or you want to play games. There's something that doesn't go against that. And those who've touched it know that. What we're saying here does not go against it, but we are asking that you try, see what leads, see what outcome comes of it, and then do it. But yes. Okay. That is the end of that part there. We're not going to continue further. We're not even going to get to this part. Let's read it though. And we'll go over it next week. During meditation, because we're going to meditate now. During meditation, we must neither reject nor follow movement. By remaining at ease whenever the change takes place, the movement will dissolve by itself, like the wave which forms on the ocean, on the surface of the ocean, which subsides into it again. So as you sit there, the reason why we say your motivation is very important before you meditate. You don't just meditate to meditate. It's not going to get you too far. Really, before you actually practice, that's why many traditions require, a prayer before you practice. So us, we say, Bodhicitta and Refuge. Before we do any practice, we sit and we say the 2 things. We say, we generate the mind of enlightenment. So you generate, once again, you're not doing it to do it. You're doing it for a purpose, a goal. You're sitting there, dedicating yourself in these couple moments to say, I'm doing it for perfect freedom, for the sake of beings. Once you have that generated, you begin. And before you fully begin your practice, you take refuge. You once again remind yourself, okay, if I'm suffering, whenever I'm suffering, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. That is what's so beautiful about Dharma, by the way. Everything's equal. But what I would say is beautiful about Dharma is that if you put your refuge, if you seek refuge in Dharma, it gives a lasting taste. It gives a taste that you can carry around in life. Whereas, like I said, if you seek refuge in, mundane activities like the vape every once in a while, that's okay, but understand what is it you're doing. No one is saying, we don't neither reject it nor pursue it, but leave it as it is. And so naturally, as you leave it as it is, by wisdom, you will come to slowly fall that off. That falls off. The Ram Dass quote for about attachments is very simple, right? His quote was, naturally, the snake sheds its skin. You can't rip the scales off. Naturally, just as the snake sheds its skin, just so you will shed your attachments as you progress. Because you will see that your longing for attachments and what you find in them isn't worth it anymore. It isn't worth losing what you know to be tranquil and peace of mind. That's what they call it, a peace of mind. You'll worth that what peace of mind is really worth to you. Okay, good. Get your meditation objects. We'll begin for 10 minutes. We'll do 10 minutes this time, and then we'll do questions. Remember, if you notice, remember, this is a noticing. If you notice their thoughts are taking you away from the object in which you're concentrating on, you notice and you bring it back. It doesn't have to be a drama. No reason to be dramatic. Just notice it and bring it back. No matter how fancy or not fancy your thought is, no matter how sexual or non-sexual it is, bring it back. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Don't start to narrate about, wow, I can't believe I thought that. This was going to happen. As you do this more and more, many thoughts come up. That's just natural. Many thoughts arise to the surface because what we've been doing is that we've been distracting ourselves for so long that, that we allow thoughts to not be addressed or allow thoughts to be pushed down. Every time we have like a thought or a situation we don't want to deal with, really, we run to distractions as refuge from that situation or thoughts. And by doing that, you ignore it. You ignore it. And remember, whatever we resist, persist. I like that one. I like that. I use that a lot for myself. Whatever we resist, persist. So, okay. Very simple. If you don't have an object, you can use your breath. Okay. You as you are, with your thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. You are the very aliveness of awareness that is made of no substance, so it does not die and is not born. You as that, your vitality, the vast mandala that is your perceptions, your thoughts, your feelings, your likes, your dislikes, your friends, your family, all of it. One pristine, perfect mandala. Your essence is unfuckable, as Lama Lena says. Your essence is utter purity, unstained by whatever has passed in it. No anxiety has ever touched you. No anger has ever touched you. Okay. It was good. Thank you all for joining me, and that's it. Wow. Naturally, as you do this more and more, many things will arise. Many different experiences, meditative experiences. They're called nyams in Tibetan, nyams, meditative experiences. They arise. They can't help but arise. You need not seek them. As you do this more and more, they will arise without your needing to attain them. When they arise, you leave them be as they are. Do not grab them. You'll see many things, many insights might arise. You experience many things, but let them be as they are. Don't run after them. Do not grab them. Do not grab them. Because if you grab them, you would have taken refuge in something that was born. And so if it was born, it will die and you will suffer again. So do not grab the experiences that arise. Very simple. Okay. This goes for any experience. No one has ever said you have to grab an experience. No one has ever dictated and said that anywhere, that you have to grab and hold at it. But what we're speaking about here is very different. Do not think non-grabbing is ignoring or suppression. That is not what it is. Here we're speaking of mind training, taming your mind. It is a concept that is new to a lot of people. We are not ignoring things here because you cannot ignore them for long. But you are sort of tilling the ground of the garden of your mind, like they say, right? To get poetic. Your mind is a garden, and you're simply making sure they're fertile, the roots, the ground, the soil is nice and good, so that whatever appears in it can appear healthy, can appear good and strong, so you can deal with it as such. Whether it's good karma or bad karma does not matter. If within a fertile ground, a tree that bears like a rotten tomato will fall off, it'll get discarded, but because the ground is so fertile, more will come. More will be allowed to arise, better fruit, better fruitions, newer fruit. Change will happen more easily, more smoothly. And so, yes, we're creating the right conditions and causes for mind to be better, to be a bit more, I want to say calm, but that could work. Pliable, flexible, open, all those. Okay. Questions, comments, concern. Yeah, Maddie, what's up?
Thank you for class. So beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Wow. Thank you.
So when we have like when we have calmness because of practice, like in practice, when we have insights into like Buddha nature in practice, how is that different than like true like liberation? Like I feel like, because if I'm only having them through practice, if it comes and goes, right, like it's not when I'm not practicing, or it's sometimes when I'm practicing and sometimes when I'm not practicing I have it. That can't be like the real thing, right? Because if you have a true insight of liberation, then it's going to be all the time, always, forever. So what,
Okay.
right? Is that true?
Okay. So as you said, right, in Tibetan Buddhism, the word for Buddha is Sangye, right? Yeah, it basically means clear of obscurations. And so what practice does, what aim of practice is to slowly dust away obscurations. And so be very careful here as a practitioner. Ultimately, the realization will dawn in which you need not continue to do any longer. Meaning there will not be a you doing it. But do not be mistaken, even at that point in which there's no longer a you doing anything, there's still points after that. And so while there is still effortful needed right now, insights that you attain, do not reject them and say they're not the final insight. You are after, yes, that is the goal, but that will dawn by way of clearing away your obscurations through those beneficial insights. I did that for a while. I did that for like a bit because Dzogchen does easily fall into that where you get insights because of practice, but because Dzogchen is a not doing practice, you're like, well, what do I do with those? Do I just like let them be? Like, do I let them go? But at that point where I was still being honest with myself, I am putting in effort. There's still an I efforting there. Therefore, I needed to really look at that insight, integrate it into my life, and change life according to that insight. That's what it means there. You're starting to mirror, like Nish says, as you practice more and more, you can't help but be like the saints and be like all those beings. You can't help but emulate those, reflect those attributes, those qualities. Because like we said, your Buddha nature, meaning your inherent potential to express all the qualities of Buddhahood, are there all the time. So it makes sense that more and more you actually practice, you're not getting rid of anything, but by your wisdom that comes, by the insight that comes into its nature, you see clearly your nature. You see more clearly in line with that nature. And so you move towards that goal that way. Yeah. It's like more insight. Yeah.
It's like, so like you said, it's like you're dusting the mirror off over time. Like, you know, the one about like the rope and the snake.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's maybe like you don't like see that, like if it's like kind of like somewhat a little tiny bit light in the room, but it's like pretty dark, you might like see it, you might think it's a snake, and then you might think it's a rope, but then you might kind of think it's a snake again, and then like a rope more. It's not like you just see it once and you think it might be a rope instead of a snake and then you're done. It's like it might kind of take a little bit
to like a little bit. Yeah. There is that one that will just like, by that time, once again, you won't be there to no one gets enlightened, right? That's what they all say. No person gets enlightened. You are already that. You simply you're allowed to shine that forth because you cleared away obscurations. Obscurations are, you recognize, clearing obscuration is sort of an analogy too. Be very careful here. Just like the rope and snake, it is an analogy. Keep it as an analogy. Be very careful when it comes to, see, right now, Lama Lina said this too. They were given instructions by the Karmapa, I think, himself to say, when you give an analogy, say it's an analogy. Because practitioners, as our minds are very in tune with this stuff, we might cling too hard at the analogy, reify it a little bit too much. And so we don't get where it's really pointing at, the context in which it's given. That rope and snake is a very, very immediate kind of analogy. It gives the impression as if a light is on and it's like that. And sure, the light as awareness dawns is that, that it is as it is. You will know, you will see in every moment that this is all a dream. There's no need, whatever appears is but an appearance. You need not worry about that. That will occur. But for now, while there's still a you needing that insight, use the insight, really integrate the insight. You think of the insight as a mini version of a big spiritual experience. You still need to integrate it. Yeah.
When you say integrate it, do you mean, like, what do you mean by integrate it?
Well, that will depend on the nature of the insight. So, for example, usually though, I tend to see that insights, we say they accumulate wisdom and wisdom and bodhicitta. So wisdom and compassion. These are two things that are basically your insight is going to probably build into. So let's say your insight now is, let's see. Oh, okay. I think I have one. One second. Do you mind you want to share your insight you've had? Or
I mean, if you have one, we could go with yours, but I could say the one I was kind of thinking about if that'd be better. I don't know. Up to you.
okay, I'll tell you one of the reasons why I started being very stern on my very simplistic way of saying, if you're suffering, notice you're suffering, start to remedy it. Right? Especially when it comes to refuge. The sternness I have on refuge, if you notice, is know you're seeking refuge, then seek your refuge. The reason why I'm so stern on this concept of refuge, this actually helped. This quote, I was watching a movie. It's called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I've never seen that on Hulu. So I'll give you 37 minutes in. She says this. She says, my father used to say, plant your feet and stand firm. The only question is where to put your feet. Like, how brilliant is that? She said that it's just so. Wherever you plant your feet, plant it firm. Don't be a leaf that gets blown here, there, and everywhere. Do not there'll be a candlelight that just blows in and the least thing passes it by. If you're planting your feet, plant it within the context, the full context of your practice, of your tradition, of whatever it is, of your teacher. Plant it in there. And so yeah, the inside is that. The inside, so now I would integrate that as a being. And I would use that insight and say, wow, now that next time I experience anger, I will plant my foot in practice instead of doing what I normally do. That's integration. So instead now when anger arises, because that insight, remember, insight is not just regular thoughts. Insight is something that penetrates, that really gets to you. You feel inside to be true. You intuitively know that shit to be true. And so once you have that conviction in your insight, which is also something you need to have, know that you are a being that is capable of receiving insight, and know that I trust yourself to be able to confidently put that insight to say, wow, that's real, that's true. So what does it mean now? How can I direct that insight into parts of my life? Some insights are more general, that allows you to go deeper into like non-dual type stuff. But most of the time, the insight that will come, that's the most beautiful ones, are the ones that allow you to directly change your behavior now. That directly allow you to change your behavior so that you can continue on to, life gets a little more simpler, a lot more simpler, really, like a lot more simpler. And funny enough, because I'm not never did monkhood. And so I never had to go through the vows and the precepts and so forth. What's beautiful, what I found by practicing Dzogchen is that exactly this. The insights that arose from that follow very closely with monk vows. We say that, and because of that insight that arose from there, I started following them. And just like that, life became so much easier for practice. See, vows and precepts and so forth, teacher says that, Lama says that, basically they're like guardrails. They can't take you to liberation. None of the precepts, and they can't like take you all the way, but they're sort of guardrails so that your life sort of stays nice and chill a little bit, so that you can keep going, that you can have that full potential to keep going. Yeah.
Cool.
Inside's the same way. Inside just keeps you more and more. Think of it as you're building your boat sturdier. That's insight. You build your boat sturdier.
If you have an insight about awareness, if you have an insight about not following a thought, not identifying with the thought, but identifying with all thoughts, or the ground in which all thoughts appear, or something like that, then the integration could be, it could both be a practice integration, when thoughts arise, it's that much easier for you to identify with the other no thing, but it could also be an actually actionable, you know what I mean, integration can also be how it makes you act towards other people.
Exactly. And so we see the context in which you're speaking of, the ultimate context. See, it's a very high thing, right? To have an insight into that all thoughts are made of one material. That's once that is there, once you have that true insight into that, A lot of things are going to be answered at that point. So be careful, like, the sort of the context of the insights you receive. So something like that, if you are like, for example, this meditation I'm teaching, the stillness one, right? Once you come to know a stillness, which is awareness itself, eventually the being will see that the insight, this entire first meditation practice here and everything moving forward trains insight also. Because when movement is here and stillness is here, only insight can show you that they're one and the same thing. Because you don't make them one and the same thing. They have always been one and the same thing. They're right now, they're one and the same thing. But the insight, the knowing isn't there. The confidence in that knowing isn't there. And so now the being who knows stillness and the movement passes by, they have such confidence in that stillness that it can back off from the movement long enough to go, wait a minute. What is that movement made out of? Wait a minute, wait a minute. Like, when my body's completely at ease, when nothing is moving in my body and my mind is still, that thought went by, but it wasn't made of anything. There was no matter to the thought. I'm in stillness. I know stillness. And you will see there and then that the movement and the stillness have never been different. We call it, once you see that, you enter into the path called the Yoga of Dancing Stillness. The Yoga of Dancing Stillness is unlocked. Is allowing you to see it. It's the insight that sees. Awareness that sees and knows, because that's all awareness does. You perfectly as you are, empty cognizance. Remember, there is no Maddie there. You look to find someone, you will not find someone. You're empty. But that emptiness is aware. It's cognizant. There's a light to it, a shining to it. That is what you are, empty cognizance. Very basic, very simple terms, but it's so much there to it that you can break into. But that's it. See, you as empty cognizance, you as just that awareness, through practice, sees directly the inseparability from the movement and the stillness. You, the knower who penetrates all things, you penetrate all of it. In any moment you penetrate it, you know it. Yeah, that's insight. And so just so, even when you're meditating or you're doing a practice japa, and you go, that knowing, that cognizance, you think you're doing the japa, but really what's going to happen is that you get so caught up in the japa that the knowing, the cognizance, pure awareness, you as you are, that will come to the forefront. That'll be, that's always knowing. And so it will be allowed to bear insight, arise insight.
Okay, so sorry, this is my last question. I know.
Good.
So when you say like the dancing yoga, the yoga is like the stillness part, right? So is the other part just the like conviction that the movement is also the stillness, or is there another, like, is that what you mean by that?
Oh, the Yoga of Dancing Stillness. Okay, so what we're referring to here is the Mahamudra terms we're speaking of here. And so Mahamudra takes place in 5 stages: the path of accumulation, the path of focus, which is what we're on right now. We're doing the path of focus here. Path of accumulation, the path of focus, the path of direct seeing, or this is what we call the direct seeing, is the Yoga of Dancing Stillness. It's think of it not as a physical yoga, as in like this is the yoga that shows the union of movement and stillness, right? Yeah, that's what this is. The yoga of movement and stillness, the union of it. That's where we're here now. And through that, over time, as you start to see more and more that whatever arises in you now, at this point, as you're mature in the path of, direct seeing, more and more as all situations come up in your life and all the happenings happen, more and more you'll see that you never had to follow the movement. You never had to really, go here, there, and everywhere. And you will see directly that, well, the stillness is empty because nothing is there solid to it. It's always there. It never goes anywhere. Because you will see that directly in this practice. The first one, you'll see the stillness doesn't go anywhere. And you will see the movement is also empty. So the stillness is empty. The movement is empty. Wow. We're good. But then you still have to progress because you have to see now the one who sees this union, the one who knows this union, this movement is still this union that is occurring. Now look to see that. Turn it around. Look to see that. What is that? Who is in there? If the movement, who you thought was your mind, your thoughts, perceptions, all that's movement, if you now know that movement is nothing, who is it that feels I then? Who is it really there that feels the I if all this movement that's occurring in my life is just stillness, is nothing, is no thing? Who am I then? Who is it the I that always felt so attacked by the movement, so harmed by the movement, so pushed and pulled by the movement? Who is that? What is that made out of if all of this is just stillness? And that's where you enter one taste, where can't explain that a lot, but one taste. Everything is one taste. The one taste of no thing. One taste of bliss, whatever it is. All is one taste. Yeah. Yes. That was good.
Beautiful. Thank you.
And so
I feel like my question's slightly off topic, but it randomly came to mind when you were talking about like thoughts have no real matter. And it had me start thinking about like the very new age idea about manifestation and like the clickbait YouTube.
yeah.
It's like your thoughts control the world. Like
Yeah.
all of your thoughts manifest immediately. And just kind of like, what are your thoughts on that? Like compared to considering thoughts don't have to be the end all be all that make everything happen.
Okay, yeah. So context here. The context of this practice is to come to see emptiness directly. It's an ultimate truth, right? The ultimate truth of emptiness, shunyata, meaning that once you see that all things are mind, and this all things are mind, your thoughts, perceptions, your emotions create what you call mind, you, I, my mind, right? Your thoughts, feelings, perceptions, the knower, the seer, that being there. All the thoughts that arise there, made out of nothing. Slowly and slowly, you'll see that all phenomena, therefore, have always imprinted thoughts on phenomena. You've always imprinted thoughts, feelings, and perception on phenomena. You've always looked at the outside world and even the inside world and applied thoughts, feelings, and perception to it. It's this way or that way, not this way or that way. What we're pointing to here is freedom from that, showing you that the substance that all those things it's made out of is nothing. It's not made of anything. And so it has no real pull on you. It has no ability to pull you. But before all of this, while we're still working in the realm of thought, manifestation and perception, all that, your perception, we say your perception sort of creates your reality. And so if you are able to change in really, direct ways, some ways you think and act and stuff like that, I guess things can manifest. I mean, you'll have to go to Nish for all the tantrika things about, magic stuff. But it is not, I feel like as practitioners, it's a better goal to aim to see the no thing, not like a better goal, sorry, but like that's a goal of practice, enlightenment. And so spend your time there, but along the way to there, you'll see that the manifestation truth that's inherent in there, you'll see it along the way. You'll see it, and because you see it so clearly, they're now catching on to something like it, but you'll have like a sturdy roadmap. You'll have like a lineage and, teachings go back whenever to show you that and more. Yeah, it's good. I think people should start to really take control of their thoughts and stuff like that, but understand that you can't, that's just taking refuge. That's just another refuge from your suffering. Because if you were changing your thoughts but not actually dealing with the fact that you might be a very, overly angry person, just changing your thoughts are going to do a lot for you. I mean, especially probably going to be hard. But what we're looking at here is when the afflictive emotions arise. See, when that anger arises strongly, there's no way I believe I can, when anger arises so strongly in a being who it captures their attention, I can say, start changing your thoughts, start like thinking something else. No, that won't help them because they'd be so consumed by the anger that they wouldn't be able to even think different thoughts. Because if that, see, emotions and thoughts we say in this context are twined together. They're like a giant yarn just ball together. You can't really separate them too well. And so, yeah, yes, you can. That change of thought thing will work for future karma. But what we're looking at directly is the immediate afflictive emotions that arise with you. The thing that creates a suffering in your life, that makes you act in sort of suffering creating ways, if you want to call it that. But yeah, manifestation is cool, you know. Yes. I mean, if you're already putting the time into changing your thought like that intensely, that mindfully, you might as well start a mindfulness practice. You know what I mean? Because to have your thoughts change that quickly all the time, you need to be like pretty damn mindful of it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Yeah. Good question. Good question. Any more questions? Good, Atif. How's it going?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Okay. Good. All right. So to end, we'll end with Refuge. We'll end with Bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is precious. May it arise where it has not arisen. And once arisen, may it flourish ever and ever. May I, until attain the essence of awakening, take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. May I always remember the true refuge that is free from suffering, that will release me from the bonds of samsara. Jai Ma. All right. Thank you all for coming. This has been fun. See y'all next week. Doing something recording.